Welcome on today's conversation on the future of work, where AI isn't just a buzzword, but a business driver. This is Lenovo Work Reborn, live in Orlando. Hey, Jimmy, how are you doing today?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for asking. I wanted to welcome you to our podcast. This is the Work Reborn podcast. And this show is all about really highlighting leaders, leading experts within the IT and tech landscape, and really talking about how we're bringing new life to the modern workplace. And from our conversation off camera, I learned a little bit about you, and you're working in the legal intelligence field. And that's kind of interesting and new. So do you mind talking to us just a little bit about what that is and what you do?
Absolutely. It's a common question that I got.
Yeah.
Right? It's actually quite interesting. I work for a company called ALM Global. It's a legal intelligence company that's serving the legal industry. A lot of our users are attorneys, law firm partners, legal counsel of a Fortune 500 company. What we do is we serve content, data, analytics for them to better run their business. It's funny because within legal, almost everybody knows us. But outside of legal, very few people ever heard of us.
Well,
But if
legal is a very tight-knit community as far as the niche goes, but
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, but if I mention some of our, I would say competitors, if you
Right.
will, right? Like LexisNexis,
Right.
Bloomberg Law. So those are some of the companies that we're competing with. Yeah.
Yeah. So, tell me about your role as a CTO. It's a really interesting role because you wear so many hats. And within that role, how are you considering AI currently in your, in your work, in your organization? Is that something you're top of mind? I think it is, but tell me a little bit about what's keeping you up thinking about it.
Absolutely. So we look at AI applications or use cases in two different lenses, right? So on one end is external facing, customer facing AI, right? So AI features such as a natural language search, right? Hyper personalization, right? Those kind of use cases we apply to our product and we prioritize them because it generate additional revenue for the company, right? So we call those game-changing AI, right? That basically raise our revenue or reduce our costs, right? Then you have internal-facing AI, what we call the everyday AI, right? The everyday AI basically is how employees can automate their workflows, right? What kind of tools they can embed in their work life, right? To be more productive or learn more, right? So it's not only monetary value, some of the AI tools that we implemented actually help the employees to have a better work-life balance, right? That's value. That's not immediately reflected in our balance sheet, but it's something that all of our employees love, right? So we have something called EVP, right? So it's employee value prop.
Okay.
So
Thank you for explaining the acronym. We've got a lot of those, so it's helpful to our listeners. Yes.
That's right. Yeah. And we believe that, if you ask someone to do something, right?
Right.
You have to ask the question, what's in it for them, right? And that EVP is the value prop that we explain to our employees. We help them because everybody's EVP is different, right? And it's quite funny because when you talk about AI implementation or adoption in enterprise, you have to have a top-down approach from the CEO. Say, okay, here's the investment, here's our goal, right? Here's what we want to achieve. But at the same time, you need a bottom-up approach as well because everybody's workflow is different. Everybody's work job is different, right? Only themselves can understand how AI can be applied to their job. And so we need employee to embrace that, to truly lead that AI transformation with us.
You bring up a great point. I think, we talk about AI readiness, but I think it should be AI proactiveness, to be honest, because AI is here. It's not going anywhere. And we need our teams to be open to it and also understand that it's changing the job role landscape as well. But on a different side, in another capacity, there is a concern around cybersecurity risks as it relates
Absolutely.
to AI. According to our Work Reborn research, a lot of the leaders cited that the biggest challenge to using AI in security is the complexity of the IT environment. So,
Mhm.
where does that complexity hit hardest for your team right now? And what are you guys doing to try to make steps to overcome that?
Absolutely. So that has been one of our key concerns as well, right? And I think we've went through a journey. 3 years ago, if you asked me that question, my answer will be,
I don't know.
I don't know, or we will block those AI tools.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
because the sensitive information that was inputted into those AI tools, you don't have any control over it. You don't know what the employee is feeding the AI, right? And there's no promises or guarantee from the AI vendor that they won't use those data for training. But if you ask me now, it is an extremely different answer, right? So we've actually done a lot of work with our partners, our AI vendors, to control the data that we feed into those tools, trying to understand what data flows where, right? How is it being used? And also contractually, we have agreement in place with all the vendors so that our data is not being used for training purposes. And from a security standpoint, access control, centralized access control by utilizing other security tools is also essential for controlling the security aspect.
Well, that's why I think, having a third party in, maybe like Lenovo, to assist with this very intensive mapping of the implementation is useful for someone like you, especially that's wearing a lot of hats as well. I think it's a hard thing to acknowledge, but we really can't do it all, right? At the end of the day, right? But on the flip side of that, it is exciting to see what you've been doing in your organization and the strides that you've made to take them to the next level. In your personal opinion, where do you think the future of work is going to be? We call it work reborn. Like, what does that mean to you?
It's an interesting question, right? Nobody really know how the eventual state will be, but the way I look at it, I think we need to change the relationship between the user and the AI tools, right? So we call it AI tools, but it's not going to be tool anymore. In the future, I do see that AI playing a kind of a partnership role with us. It's kind of like a digital twin, right? So they'll be everywhere we go. And for example, you go to meetings, everything is being recorded, right? Your conversation with your coworker
Right.
is being recorded in the Slack, Teams, right? And that's a good thing to a certain extent because AI shadows you everywhere. So whatever you said, whatever conversation, discussion that you have with your colleagues turns into knowledge, into context. And the way that AI tools works is the more context you feed into that tool, the more accurate it will be. And everybody, 2 years ago, everybody was talking about prompt engineering. And
Do you think that's old news now?
I think that's old news.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, prompt engineering is still applicable, but not everybody can do it properly.
Okay.
You need certain level of communication skills. You need to know the right question to ask, right? But context is different. Context is something that an AI twin can sit with you, record those contacts, and based on the situation, feed those contacts into the engine and generate the answer for you so that you can get those answers. You can even be prompted by the AI what the next step will be, what is the recommendation. You don't have to master prompt engineering anymore.
So I think if I'm hearing correctly from your perspective, Work Reborn isn't about just doing only one thing well. It's being open to learning and trying many things and continuously moving forward in that knowledge.
Exactly. I think everybody is talking about the only thing that doesn't change is change, right? So the ability to constantly learning and keep up with that change, I think is going to be an essential skill set for everybody in the workforce.
Well, Well, Jimmy, thank you so much for coming by the podcast booth today. This has been a really insightful conversation. We appreciate you being one of the many leaders who've shared their voice on this topic on how the future of Work Reborn is. For anyone listening, if you're interested in downloading the Work Reborn report, make sure you click the description in the link below. And if you're watching us on YouTube, QR code is over here on the screen. Go ahead and scan it and grab your copy. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Jimmy.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us live in Orlando for this amazing episode of Work Reborn. I've been your host, Rita Risha, and it's been a pleasure to bring you insightful conversations from around the world, especially at this event, on how we are bringing new life to the modern workplace. If you enjoyed this episode and you want to stay tuned on more ways that we are doing just that, make sure to like, follow, and subscribe our channel, and download a copy of the Work Reborn report today.
Lenovo.